And then we also have Dr. Greg Allen, who's going to be our lead speaker tonight. This morning. And I wanted just to welcome you to Redondo. And if you guys wanted any refreshments or anything like that, we have those in the back. Feel free to grab those as well. Today, our purpose is basically for you to ask questions of Dr. Allen, of how adolescents think, how they work, how you can support them. He's going to provide opportunities for that. He's very experienced. He's worked with students in and around our area, not only in Redondo, but Palos Verdes, Manhattan Beach, and so on. So he's very familiar with this dynamic of family structure and also student structure and their decision making. So he's been assisting not only these students this year, but for many years here. He's also a member of the Drug and Alcohol Task Force that we have in Redondo Beach. So without further ado, Dr. Greg Allen.
All right. Clapping. Students didn't clap for me at all. Hey, just come on and sit and tell them.
Grab a chair, guys.
I'll have to take it off. It's a cool library.
Just not in this area.
Not in general.
A real relevant topic. And, as you look at this area of this title is a difficult title, at least the way I see it, because a lot of times we think we don't want teenagers to drink alcohol. Am I yelling? For you, I'm yelling. Or we don't want them to use drugs, right? It's illegal, it's unhealthy, that's our goal, that's our mission. But when you look at the, when I survey the youth subculture, I call it a subculture. It's okay, subculture is good, you guys, don't worry. The youth culture is different than the adult culture, and what how kids are made, and some of these, I see a lot of challenges. So, we've learned that the brain doesn't fully develop till age 25. The prefrontal cortex, the brake part of our brain that warns us of possible future consequences, that part of the brain isn't fully developed yet. And so teens have a real desire to risk, for adventure, for curiosity, for exploration, discovery, and all these things to me are fantastic. I think adults need to be a lot more like that. A lot of adults have lost a lot of the sense of these qualities: curiosity, discovery, trying to find new things, new experiences. But there's a real sense of go for it and just go for it. So that's part of what's going on mentally with kids. I was reading an article with dopamine is the pleasure chemical in our brain, neurotransmitter, right? And dopamine is the main reason anybody drinks alcohol or does any drug. It's because it elevates your dopamine. The dopamine goes up, you get pleasure, you get euphoria, you feel good. Starbucks, same thing. Caffeine, nicotine, it's just elevated dopamine. I heard one guy say, why can't I just buy some dopamine somewhere? Instead of taking all these things and doing all these things to get my dopamine going. It doesn't work that way. So at the teen years, it's the highest levels of dopamine ever in the course of a human's lifetime. So you got all these things going on mentally and cognition-wise. You also have, a lot of kids have a tremendous stress that they're experiencing. And stress is the number one reason that teenagers across the country report why they drink excessively or use drugs, is to deal with stress. Whereas 15 years ago, it was to be cool or fit in. So it's to cope with stress. So I see kind of two categories. Some kids are really stressed because they're overachieving, they're really working hard, they're overscheduled, they're like a lot of adults, they're doing too much, they're going too fast, and they have no balance in their everyday life. They have no balance in their week. The same as adults, right? I mean, a lot of the kids mirror the adult, demographic or characteristics. So a lot of people don't have healthy ways to discharge stress, to relax themselves, to feel good, to chill out. And so we drink, or we smoke marijuana, or we take a pill, or we start doing that kind of stuff just to relax. Now, some kids aren't overscheduled, overachieving, but they have the stress of trying to just fit in. Just trying to fit in with a group of kids, school, life, whatever. And kids are kind of adolescent years, naturally insecure. because they're trying to find their way, and every day is like, who am I, what am I going to do, what am I going to be? Those questions are kind of going through us at that age. There's a head psychiatrist at UCLA wrote a whole book on how America has an addictive culture. Not that some people get addicted, some people have addictions, that our culture is addictive, that we're prone to addiction and compulsiveness and striving and going and going and going. And the US and Japan are the most working hours per week countries that take the least amount of vacation time. You know, they were always going. And so we have that going on for teenagers as we look at this topic today, teens, substance abuse, and what's going on. So you have the cultural dynamics. Then we have technology, and as good as technology is, one of the downsides seems to be it's disconnecting us from human relationships. And as we get disconnected from people and interacting with people, we get a little disconnected from ourselves, disconnected from our emotions, from our heart, from our soul, whatever you want to call it. And as we get disconnected, we don't know what's happening with ourselves, we don't know what we're doing, and then maybe I'll drink something to numb out how I feel, or maybe I'll take something so I can feel more. Okay? The media increases a lot of our dissatisfaction with ourselves because we're not as beautiful as everybody else, right? We're not as wonderful as everybody else. And so that adds to feeling insecure. We also have short attention spans. We're prone to immediate gratification. That sounds real hopeless, right? Yeah. But this is what I see as the underlying foundation as you look at teens drinking or using drugs. This is the cultural climate of our, of LA, but really of the US, or you could say Western society. I won't say the earth, okay? I won't go that far. Okay, so we're prone to immediate gratification, and anybody who knows anybody's been an addict or an alcoholic, that's one of their biggest challenges is dealing with frustration, dealing with disappointment, dealing with difficult emotions. And we know that at least half of life is difficult emotions, right? That's being optimistic. Okay, and it's not all happy, right? And so how do you deal with sadness? How do you deal with pain? How do you deal with frustration? How do you deal with anger? How do you deal with feeling overwhelmed? Those are emotions that we're going to feel maybe every day, every few days, and we have to learn how to just breathe and feel those feelings and think about them and realize what they're about and kind of go on. But for some people, when people get used to taking stuff or drinking things or smoking things, their ability to feel emotions, difficult emotions, is really minimal. They can only go a few minutes, a few hours before they need to, medicate themselves with something. All right? And when you're taking substances, as you all probably know this, you're not growing emotionally. When you're not present in life, dealing with conflict, and how to negotiate conflict and challenges, and getting through it and learning those skills. If you're not present because you're drinking or you're taking drugs, then you're not learning those skills. And someone can start at age 14 or 15 or 16 drinking or doing drugs, and they can stop at age 35, and they're going to stop, and they've stopped. Okay, so chronologically they're 35, but we know emotionally they're 14 or 15 when they started, because they've been kind of not present in life and they haven't been learning how to cope with life. So these are all other reasons to think about. And then we have adult role models. I went to an economic forum for Manhattan Beach and said that Manhattan Beach, which is similar to here, beach cities, they buy more alcohol is purchased, like if anywhere zip code wise west of the Mississippi. So you got all these adults. This is legal alcohol. This is not kids with fake IDs. Okay? Let's blame this on the adults, right? Okay, sorry. More alcohol is purchased than anywhere. So you have adults drinking a lot, wine. Basically, it was wine. Buying wine. So you have adult role models of drinking and doing drugs and stress. Kids see their parents' lifestyles. A lot of them aren't that excited about it to grow up and do that. They see the schedules of so a lot of maturity is being delayed. Some kids don't want to maybe drive at 16. That's okay. Maybe they don't want to, move out till a little later. Marriage is getting delayed, people getting married, stuff like that. So these are all challenges when you just talk about. A lot of the stuff is biological, it's relational, right? I just mentioned on this slide. It's society, but this all feeds into it. So it's not just a matter of this kid shouldn't do drugs or this kid shouldn't be drinking on the weekends. It's all this other stuff that's going on. And as you look at someone that has a problem with drinking or doing drugs and they're trying to get help, and what should they do? Well, this is the other side of the coin. All this stuff needs to be addressed. Their schedule, their time management, what they do for fun, how they cope with their emotions. You know, all this stuff is all part of the picture. Okay? Everybody still with me? Everybody showed up finally. So again, so there's all these different factors that I kind of mentioned that. So there was a survey done a few years ago here in the South Bay, and they asked parents, how many of you, there was a big survey, but 2 questions I want to highlight. They asked parents, how many of you feel that your son or daughter, your kid's friends, use drugs? And it was like 78%. I said 78% said, I think my kid's friends use drugs. How many of you, the second question, feel like your kids use drugs? You know, or drink, use drugs? It was 8%. Okay, so get some bad friends out there, right? So this is South Bay parents, right? So there's a real disconnect between what parents think is going on and what is going on. The average teen in America uses drugs for 2 years until parents find out. That's a long time. I think it's about 6 to 8 months. But often a parent finds a pipe, or the kid comes home with red eyes, or there's some different irregular behavior that the parents notices, and they're alarmed, and they find out so-and-so is doing this and doing that. And they're scared, and they're embarrassed, and they're humiliated, and they're ashamed, and they're angry, and they're confused parents. And then the kid is like, yeah, whatever. Yeah, we do it for a while. So a lot of parents don't know what's going on. So again, when working with families, trying to reconnect parents and teens' relationships is really crucial. That the parents know where the kids are, they know what they're doing, that the families do activities together, and that relationship really needs to get worked on. It can't be just, if a kid has an alcohol problem or a drug problem, I'll call you guys kids because I'm so old, okay? Not to be offensive. If a kid has an alcohol or drug problem, it's not like, well, this kid needs to get fixed, this kid needs to get help, this kid needs to go deal with this. It's like, the family needs help. Family's a big dynamic, a big reason why what's going on is going on. It's not blaming the parents. It doesn't mean the boy or girl is not responsible for their choices or actions, but to heal the situation, the whole family dynamic has to be addressed. And one thing I've noticed over the years is that the thing that when you ask a parent after they've gone through some level of treatment or care or counseling or getting help, with their family, and then you ask them, what did you learn from this process for the last 3 months or 6 months? They say, I learned to listen. And they learn to listen to their kid. It doesn't mean they do everything their teenager says, but they learn to listen to them. But when I meet people in crisis or having problems, the last thing they want to do is listen to their teenager. But that's the thing that's not going on. They don't understand what's happening with them. They don't understand what they're feeling. They don't understand what their experience is like. There's that disconnect going on. And it's not to guilt trip the parents, but the relationships need to be strengthened. One easy way to do it is just have dinner once a week. You don't have to spend money at a rehab. If you look at these stats here, percentage of who've used substances and have dinners together. They eat family dinners. So instead of spending, $30,000, $40,000 at a rehab center, just have dinner together. It'd be a lot cheaper. And so what does that mean? Who can tell me who can interpret this for me? Raise your hand and tell me what this means. Yeah.
Kids that have less than 2 family dinners a week or something are likely to use other drugs, whereas kids who have dinner with their family
Right.
most of the week don't.
Right. So why is that? Is it because the food's so good? It must be good food. Yes.
It's because, families eating dinner forces them to talk about their day, our problems going on. Usually laughter happens and you feel like the actual family instead of like watching TV or going to the routine.
Very good. Right. They're probably interacting together. You know, and I don't think the requirement is to turn it into a therapy session. But I think just eating together, I think also just doing stuff together. You know, the father doing stuff with his kids, the mother doing stuff with the kids, you know, activities, and just being together creates a bond. There's actually 25% of teens across the country report they don't drink or do drugs. 25%. Seems like a high number, doesn't it? In high school, that they didn't do it. They asked those kids why. Okay, let's guess on this one. Why do you think the 25% of kids don't drink or do drugs in high school in the U.S.? Why do you think, when they said, why didn't you do it? What do you think their reason was? Parents. Okay, what about the parents? That they have them? Yes.
Mad, or they'd be involved, or they'd know.
Parents might know, they might get involved. Yeah.
I think they felt accepted by their family for who they were, and they didn't have to go outside.
Okay, maybe they felt accepted by their family, so they didn't have to go outside to get acceptance. Or...
Disappointment. They didn't want to disappoint them.
You heard me get this talking.
That's
Not having it the first time.
You got it, ding, ding, ding. You get a free orange juice. No. I'm sorry. Yes, they didn't want to disappoint their parents. When I heard that, I said, disappoint their parents. That sounds like a junior high kid to me. I do 6th grade orientation at some of the schools, and those 6th graders, they really want to please their parents. They want to make them happy. They want to do what their parents want them to do. They want their acceptance, you know. But usually when you get to teenager or high school, you think a teenager might not be that concerned about their parents, disappointing their parents. But it probably means the families are really connected, and the parents have communicated values to them, and they're still close together. So it's just more of the same for that point, family point, which is relevant. So these are some other things that prevent addiction, and we know that everybody that drinks alcohol, smokes marijuana, takes pills is not going to become an addict, right? And who can define what an addict is for me? What is an addict? It's a thing upstairs in the house? Okay, what's an addict? Yes?
A person that keeps using this substance more and more to get the same effect because they want to, because they think it feels good.
Good. You've got a real good dictionary definition there. So someone who continues to use something because it feels good, yeah. Another definition is that when you have an addiction, you can't control it. You can't stop. The addiction controls you. You know, part of you may say, I should stop, but you really can't. It kind of overwhelms a person. So these are some things, and again, these are things that can prevent addiction, prevent drug use, as well as things to do if someone's trying to get out of drug use or out of being an alcoholic. And then having something to do, caring about yourself, caring about other people, getting involved in service, having responsibility. A lot of parents want to restrict their kids and take away stuff from the kids and make the kids like dependent, when I think they need to do is to kind of empower their kids to have freedom to make choices, decisions, responsibility, and to help them grow up, to give them more of some of these things. Sense of purpose is something. When you think of why someone, like last night, I don't know how many people here got drunk last night. It's another way to express it. We're not going to ask you to raise your hand, okay? Or how many people here smoked marijuana last night? Or took a drug, right? Probably not too many, okay? So why? Why is that? Probably because you knew you had to get up today, go to school, come here. You definitely didn't want to do drugs before you came to a drug talk, right? So you had a sense of purpose. You had something to do. You had something to focus on. You had something in your schedule. You had to be kind of organized with time management. You had a sense of purpose and direction going on. People that are involved in alcohol and drug use, they don't have that. Their time is unstructured. They don't have significant things they're doing in their schedules. They don't have significant things they're doing in their life. They don't have something that brings them meaning, that's going to bring them reward. You're also here because you want dopamine. You know the students are here because they can get good grades. Hopefully they get good grades, which will make them feel good, which will help them graduate high school one day, which will help them progress further in life. That's pleasure, that's reward. The adults are here to get continuing education or to learn, which helps their careers, helps their jobs, helps their paychecks. That's reward, that's pleasure, right? So this is something that has to be built into people's lives that are stuck in alcohol and drugs. A sense of purpose, direction, meaning, all that kind of stuff. It's not just sit there and talk about the drugs, focus on the drugs. You have to repair the lifestyle too. Balancing fun and achievement. It's okay to have fun, actually. That's okay. It's an F word, but it's a good F word. Okay, there's some early signs of risk that we can see that kids that don't connect with their parents as infants, parents that use drugs, that's obvious. These are some predictors of substance abuse. People have difficult temperaments, even infants. They said there's some correlation with early childhood behavior and difficulties and conflicts. And when you look at these risk factors, I was thinking, well, this is like, what else is left? This is like everything, right? Moving, changes, difficulties, knowing people that use, any kind of personal problem. But this all makes someone higher at risk. Same thing, does anybody here know who here has an alcoholic or a addict in their family tree? An aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, someone? Okay. So that's a risk factor. That doesn't mean if you drink or use, you're going to be an addict, but it means your percentages are higher. Instead of being 8%, they might be 16%. That if you start getting into a substance, you may not be able to control it. So just a little bit about our brain. I mentioned the slower development, and the brain really adapts to whatever's happening to it. So especially at the teen years, the developmental years, it's still developing. And so it gets conditioned by whatever's happening, okay? And the percentages are like if someone starts drinking at age 13, which like, who would start drinking at 13? Maybe somewhere they do. I won't name some other state, because I've done that before and insulted people. But at age 13, if someone starts regularly drinking, they have a 43% chance they're going to be an alcoholic. 43% chance that they'll be an alcoholic. If they start at age 14, 15, it's like 30% chance. If they wait till 17, 18 to start regularly drinking, it goes down because the brain gets conditioned. So the more you can delay, wait. Some of you teens that can't wait to try something, you're really curious about ecstasy, LSD, different things, wait. I didn't say don't use it, right? Just delay it. The longer you can delay it, the better it'll be for your brain. I was counseling a bunch of these guys. They're high achieving guys. They all really high achieving, and they went to the school function, and they snuck beer in there, and they all got drunk and everything, and they got in trouble, so they had to go to counseling. These guys all had like 4.3s and everything, really high GPAs.
How old?
And what?
Are these young? How old are they?
Seniors in high school, not seniors old.
Oh.
So, but you know what? One thing they were planning to do, they don't smoke marijuana, and they don't regularly drink. They decided to drink this weekend and go crazy at the school function that was off-site. They were going to go to the grad night, and they were all going to take LSD. These guys are telling me. I go, oh, wow, what a great idea. Really, you're going to go to this thing at Disneyland all night, you're going to take LSD. You're going to take it, so I talked them out of it. But, wanting to risk, but why? They're so curious, so fascinated with what it's like. But, they probably would have been arrested or ended up in the ER or something terrible would have happened, or they wouldn't have been able to go to the colleges they went to. So, curiosity, delay it. So, there's this new area called epigenetics that's happening. Anybody heard this word before? One person? Okay. And just as there's a conditioning really that's between genetics and the environment, and we found out that the cells, we have cells in everything, every organ in us have cells, our fingers have cells, our body's made up of cells, that the cells respond to what their environment is, okay? And that the addictive substances, if someone drinks or uses drugs, they get conditioned to accept that thing and to crave that thing and to want that thing because they get so used to it being in the system, okay? So the cells get like programmed to want the drug or to want it. This is another dynamic going on. To crave it, the continued use leads to continued programming, The more someone uses, the more they're changing their cellular structure. Okay, so someone uses this for a while, and they stop using. They're not doing drugs anymore. They're not smoking marijuana. They're not drinking all the time. But their cells are programmed now because they learned to go after this thing and to crave it. Okay?
Can you change that?
Oh, we'll get there. Couldn't wait, huh? You want to hear something really weird? If you get an organ transplant, right? You get someone's liver, you get someone's kidney, you'd be fortunate to get it because you need it. Or a heart transplant, you get their cells. And it sounds really weird, but you get their preferences, the things that that cell is conditioned with. So if they liked country music, all of a sudden you're going to like, wow, that song sounds really good. You know, if they liked fried chicken, you're going to be like, wow, I really want to eat some fried chicken. But seriously, there's research on this that people get organ transplants and they have certain interests now they didn't have. And they talk to the person's family that donated and they go, that's exactly what they liked. They like motorcycles, they like this, and they like that. They go, you're kidding me. All of a sudden I'm thinking about that all the time. So the cells get programmed to learn it to, yes?
What about blood transfusions?
I don't think so. Not memory necessarily. I don't know, but I don't think so. Okay, so if we discover what turns on these addictive mechanisms, we might be able to learn how to turn the cells off. Okay, so as you're thinking of, if any of you are thinking of trying to help a teenager to stop using, which people like me have to do, you have to realize the place that they're in. And so they're not really asking for help, you know. They got caught at school with something. They got caught at a party. Parents caught them. Parents make the kid go for help. Okay, so now they got to get help. They're not really wanting help. They're not really asking for help. They don't really want to be there. They have zero motivation to change this thing, this drug issue or this drinking issue. And so that's what's going on. And so someone could say, you know, you need to stop your behavior. You need to stop it. You can't do it anymore. You better. But they don't. Let me just look at a little bit of this addiction process here. So we're really programmed like this. There's a scale here, positive and negative aspects of something. So as long as we're getting more positive on the scale, it's more weighted that way, we'll continue the behavior. We'll continue to do it. Okay? Yes, it's illegal. Yes, it's maybe expensive, and maybe if I get caught, it'll be bad doing this thing I'm doing, but I'm getting status with my friends. I feel better when I drink. Or I smoke, I feel more comfortable, my head feels good, so we're going to continue the behavior because there's more positives than negatives. This is just the way we were programmed, kind of like animals. And this kind of is the animal part of our brain that just wants reward, you know, and pleasure. And so a person continues to use, and you see here, there's a little more negative aspects now as they continue their process. Maybe there's problems with school, the family, but they're still getting more relief from bad feelings, and they feel good with their friends, what they're doing. So they're really going to continue that. And as they continue using, the scales finally tip, which we call this disenchantment phase. And now there's maybe health problems, money problems, relationship stuff, problems, school problems, legal issues. Maybe they got caught by the police. And so the scales have tipped finally. Okay? Doesn't mean there's not positives to using, to drinking or smoking weed or doing what they're doing, because they still feel good with their friends, or they get some relief, or they get to forget stuff. But the scales have tipped. And it's only at this point is someone going to begin to, maybe I better change. Maybe I better look at what I'm doing. So one of the things parents can do is to try to weigh the scales over time. If someone continues to use, then it ends up being disaster. You know, there's more and more negative, and there's a lot of people that commit suicide. This goes all the way to death, addiction, all the way to death, all the way down the line. And people that kill themselves for overdosing or intentional, you know, many of the suicides, there's alcohol and drugs involved in them. So, or there's a car accident, or there's something like that. Isn't that nice and happy? Okay, so as you're looking at someone changing, you're trying to get someone, I don't know if this makes any sense, but I'll talk about it anyway. Anybody hear of motivational interviewing? We got 2 hands, 3 hands. Okay. Motivational interviewing is a way of kind of coaching and working with someone who doesn't want to change, who hasn't even thought of changing, right? He may catch someone at school, Mr. Breedy here, with some drugs, right? This kid then needs to go get help, right? Well, that kid, before he got caught, was like, I can't wait to get high tonight. I can't wait for this weekend. Before they got caught, the 3 days before, they weren't thinking, I better stop. I don't want to do this anymore. My health is not good. I might get in trouble by the police. They're probably not thinking that. They're just thinking, so now that student that got caught has to go get help, and they're going to go there, and externally they may say, yeah, okay, I'll stop. Internally, they don't want to stop. It's going to be almost impossible for them to stop their behavior, to stop going after the substances. So they're not in the ready stage yet to make a change. And as you look at these, they're in this what you call pre-contemplation stage. These are stages of change. This is for any change. If you decide to change your hairstyle, you decide to change your outfit, you decide to change your school, you decide to change how you work out or what you eat, it's all the process of change that we go through. First, you start to go, contemplation. I wonder if I should make a change or not. You start thinking, should I do this or not? Right? And then you start going, after a while, I think maybe I will do this. I will get a different thing. I will make this change. And then you start going, okay, how do I do it? Okay, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. So when you're working with someone that's trying to come off drugs and alcohol, they're at these early stages up here. And your focus needs to be how to move them to the next way around the circle. So if they're pre-contemplative or they're contemplative, your goal is to do strategies that move them further along towards the action phase. Because if someone really wants to stop, if someone comes to you and says, I need to stop, I want to stop, help me stop, what do I need to do to stop my behavior? You can give them specific instructions, they'll be able to take those on, and they'll be able to do it. But many people aren't in that place yet, and most teenagers aren't. And many of the teen programs or treatment centers across the country, they all address this. And the focus is on that you have someone that's not motivated to make this change, but they're being forced to. And how do you deal with that conflict right there, which is quite a challenge. So these are some roadblocks to change in terms of communicating with someone. Negative roadblocks which don't help at all to communicate that way. And this would fit for parents too, in terms of talking with your kids. There's ways to communicate that are helpful, that will facilitate change. And there's ways to communicate that are going to be a roadblock and going to make it so it's hard. And you can make it even harder for change to happen. And usually when a teenager starts to try to get help, the family's communication patterns are really on the negative side. And it really has to be unlearned, and the parents have to learn new ways to communicate. And it's very difficult because there's so much fear and anger and hurt and shame and all this going on, emotions mixed in with all the poor communication. But it needs to be addressed how we talk to each other. And can we control our emotions when we talk? Can we not have anxiety attacks on each other and freak out on each other? And try to have respect for each other. So so these are some options of things to do. So another way to approach is to guide towards healthy activities. We have this Freedom for You is a youth nonprofit organization, and we have creative arts, life skills, leadership, and service activities. And the point is helping teens find their passion, their interest, their creativity, their leadership. Like Jen over here is filming this right now while she's doing her homework. Okay? So, if you find your passion, you find your interest in life, you're less likely that you want to be getting drunk or doing drugs on the weekends or during the week because you have motivation, like I mentioned before. So kids need activities, they need outlets, and work is good. It's actually good. Anybody here work? Any teenagers work? Not yet? That's okay. What grade are you guys in?
Freshman?
Oh, okay. Be against the law. I'm asking you to be illegal. You working already?
Like a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. So if you could fit in your work is good. Why is work good? Well, you get some money. You
see how hard you have to work to get $8. $8 for an hour. It's brutal, right? But also you get a sense of commitment and responsibility, and it kind of grounds us in life. And also service. Does any teens here go do service? You ever go volunteer? Ever help anybody else? It's another good thing. Where do you go? Where? Okay, good. What do you do?
Oh, I can't.
Special Olympics.
Special Olympics? Good. Yeah.
For diabetics.
Diabetics? Yeah.
I'm over here by Lincoln. I'm over here, there's like a bingo room.
Okay. Good. That's good. So what do you feel when you volunteer? What?
I know I said I lose all the time.
You lose all the time. He loses at bingo. So when you volunteer, when you help someone else, it makes you feel good about yourself. And you realize you're valuable. You have something to give someone else. Because again, a lot of our culture is gimme, 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 what I need, what I need, what I need to get, what I don't have, what I want, when am I going to get it, how come I don't have it, right? It's not how can I help this guy, how can I help her, or how can I help someone has less advantage than I do. But giving to someone else changes your whole mindset. The Marymount College, I heard the president give a talk once at Marymount College. They're requiring now all freshmen to go volunteer down at the San Pedro Boys and Girls Club. And he's saying that these 18-year-olds are coming back after they're they're just doing tutoring and stuff like that, playing games, Parks and Rec kind of stuff. He said the 18-year-olds are coming back crying. They've never done anything so great in their life. You know, because they're giving to someone else. And they feel, so it's required for all the students now. It's like they went on a trip to, another country or something. So there's a lot of need all around us. And it's a good way to focus. Okay, and just as adults, we all need healthy ways to de-stress. So kids need to find healthy ways to process themselves, to get rid of their tension. And so parents need to put that into the schedules of their kids, so that they're not just going all the time. They actually have downtime. And the average kid now, they said America spends about 8 hours a day on a screen. So the average is 8 hours. Some of that's school, some of that's home stuff. So we don't know, a lot of that needs to be monitored too. It's like a new thing, and it's just kind of going, and everybody's, a lot of the kids, when I say that to them, they go, I'm like way over that. So family time again. And then kids need to understand their limits, that it's okay to say no sometimes, it's okay to stop, and it's okay to, just to chill out. So the usual, this is my last slide, so the usual remedy if someone's having an alcohol or drug problem, the usual thing to do is to increase structure in their personal life, increase structure in their family. And you start with the family, so the parents need to, most kids are doing what they're doing because they can. There's cracks in the supervision. The parents don't know where they are, what they're doing, or who they're with, and what they don't know. If they knew, they'd go, what are you doing? You can't do that. So although a lot of parents condone their kids partying and this and that, most parents do not condone it and don't know what's going on. So the schedule needs to be tightened up, the supervision needs to be tightened up, the accountability and the consequences. And if a family does that, they can do family contracts and things like that the kid has buy-in to it and they have input into it, that a lot of that can reduce a lot of the use that's going on. The next step up would be to get school counselors involved, ask them for help. Any other, like a youth leader, some community leaders, coaches, extended family, someone in that range that might be helpful relationship-wise with that guy or with that girl or with the family, to maybe pull them in to try to help. And then obviously, professional counselors, get your individual counseling for the kid, you get family counseling or group counseling. Drug testing is something that might be necessary if the kids, most kids, they're happy to say, yeah, I get high. What's the big deal? Mom, you should. Yeah, actually, Mom, you're over 18. You can get a card. I've heard that many times. So a lot of kids are kind of blatant and they're not really hiding it. But some kids are hiding it, and it's a cat and mouse game, and they're not going to stop. They're just going to try to beat a drug test. But drug testing is something that can help with accountability And for the kid, it could be like getting an A in your report card. It's clean. Can I go out? But parents need to learn how to drug test because it's easy to beat drug tests. You know, and if it's not observed, and they're not, you know, if you know they're not putting something in it, they have to learn about that. There's material on that, and there's websites on that. There's a whole page of different websites there that could guide parents about how to keep track of that. And if all this stuff doesn't work, then maybe you want to consider like an outpatient substance abuse program. And the next step up would be an inpatient program. If outpatient doesn't work, and some kids need to go to Utah, not the University of Utah, or go out of state to some of these wilderness places. But I think that the parents need to first try. A lot of parents, like some mom will call me, you know, in a frazzled, because she talked to someone on the phone about their kid, and the kid said, "You got to send your kid away. You got to send him away. He's going to die. He's going to kill everybody if you don't send him away." So she's, and it costs, you know, $50,000, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, I have to send my kid away. I caught him smoking marijuana last night." I go, well, you know, it's like it was 5 minutes on the phone with someone, and they said send him away. So they didn't try, you know, improving their family communication structure and all that stuff. So I think the families should try to work together, because even if a kid goes away somewhere and comes back, the family still needs work. Every treatment program everywhere has huge family components, and the family is just as sick or ill, and only in a different way. It's not using substances, but emotionally they are, or communication-wise they are. So addressing that's really key. And okay, so I think we'll stop now. And so anybody got any questions or stuff you want to talk about?
This medical marijuana card,
Yeah.
how has that affected these kids? And, you know, how has that trickled down with
Yeah, so the question is about the marijuana card. So really, if you're 18, you can go to any clinic, and you go in there, no matter what you tell the doctor, it's actually a real doctor, you know, they'll give you a prescription. Because I've interviewed many, I go, what'd you take, what'd the guy say to you, what did you describe? And my back, my neck, I can't sleep, my this, I'm that. Okay, so they go there, you can get a prescription. And then you go to a clinic and buy it, it's like Trader Joe's, you got 100 choices of everything, and it's in food, and it's in everything. So really, the drug dealers now are kids with cards. So like seniors in high school or older brothers are the ones that have the stuff, and then they give it to young kids. Or kids get fake IDs now to go to clinics and get it, not to go to a dance club, to go buy marijuana. So it's just more prevalent. And then the culture's acceptance of it is a lot more prevalent, right? Because, you know, it may get legalized in California, who knows, the way things are going.
Do you think that's?
But if you look at, I have a marijuana handout there, and you know, nobody talks about the biological effects of marijuana and all this talk of make it legal. There's tremendous biological negative stuff that's happening to people. And, you know, yes, people can smoke marijuana. I mean, comparing it to alcohol, to me, is silly. Like, it's not as bad as alcohol. Okay, fine, so what? I didn't shoot, I didn't kill anybody. Okay, good, but you're still stealing from the store. You know, it's still a lot of negative motivational stuff and learning issues and dependency issues and mental addiction issues that are with marijuana. So anyway, what were you going to say?
No, I was wondering if it was safer than my biggest fear for my kids is that they're gonna, if they ever smoke, that it'll be laced with something or have heroin in it, and maybe the medical stuff might be safer. That's like an argument I hear.
Yeah, so it might be safer if it's from there, yeah, but if anybody gets anything, they can put something in it. There's a boy that we know that died at age 22 from heroin, okay? But the first time he got heroin was age 15 at a party smoking marijuana, and someone gave him a joint, and he didn't know there was heroin in it, right? But for him, it was the first feeling of like, wow, like an opiate. And from then he was drawn to like, I want to get, you know, some Vicodin. And he had this battle with opiates until he died. So people put stuff in stuff all the time too. And the concentrates, now there's concentrated stuff and wax and all this stuff. It's all melted. They melt all these, it's like hybrid horses. They melt it down to make the THC content really high. It's really powerful. It's like, it's classified as a hallucinogenic marijuana. It's not a stimulant, it's not a depressant, it's a hallucinogenic. So it alters perception of reality, like LSD, but it's not LSD. But when someone gets a high THC level one, or they eat an edible, they're not used to it, it's like LSD, they trip out. They end up in the ER, they have a psychotic thing, they're flipped out, they're hearing, you know. So I think as things get more legal, they're gonna probably move some of that stuff out of being available, the high concentrate stuff, because it's so dangerous. Yes?
What do you think about parents who are more open with their kids drinking? Because realistically, we're in high school. There's high school parties that have alcohol when we go there. There's high school parties that have like weed or hookah when we go there. And I'm realizing that the kids that are responsible, typically they have an open dialogue with their parents saying like, hey, I'm gonna go to this party. There's probably going to be alcohol there. I might drink. Like, what do you think about parents who condone that? Because I'm realizing a lot of the kids that do that they're high performing students, you know? Like,
Yeah.
if you're gonna be responsible, you tell your parents where the party is. It's like, I will call you if I can't get a ride home. I'm not gonna drive drunk, or I have a place to go afterwards. What do you think about that? Is that?
I just think a couple things. I think whatever limit the parent sets, like you can have 2 beers or whatever, you know, the kid's gonna do more. So it's all risk. So the reality is, we did a parent talk at the middle school, and I wanted to get some high school kids that don't drink and use drugs to come and talk to the junior high kids. So we went through the ASB, and so we got 2 kids, and they said, we might be the only 8 of us in the school here, that don't actually drink or smoke marijuana. So yeah, it's in the culture. It's going to be there. It's going to happen. I think for a parent, they have to make like boundaries and structure and realize their kid's going to do something, probably, or try something, or it's going to happen. But I can't say, tell your kid to do something illegal. It's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So.
Because the way I look at it is, if there's a party and the kid really wants to go and the kid really wants to drink, or the kid really wants to try something, with or without their parents knowing, they will do it.
Yeah.
Like, they will find a way. And a lot of parents are like, wouldn't you rather know if your kid's going to go to a party and drink than have them say, oh yeah, I'm going to so-and-so's house and we're watching a movie, to find out, like.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know. It's hard. Parents are terrified. But the other stuff is some harm reduction stuff would be good for parents to talk about, like hydrate, like if drink water before you drink, eat food before you drink, so you don't feel the alcohol so much. If you're gonna have, a few drinks, drink a water in between each drink, if you have that much self-control, stuff like that. Or getting rides, obviously don't get in a car with someone driving, don't drive. And then they have this, what's the taxi thing, Uber or something, you can call and get a ride anywhere if you need a ride. So some of that stuff would be good to, talk about. But the thing is, if you talk about that, it's like a condoning an illegal behavior, underage drinking. I mean, the drinking age being 21 is like so high, it's kind of silly to me. Oh, I'm being recorded. Edit that out. It's high. 21's really high. It seems like
go to war. You can
go to
be
war. I mean,
drafted at
in Europe,
18.
whatever. It seems like maybe it should be 18, but I know it's not going to be 18. But how many 21-year-olds have never drank alcohol? Yes.
So that is my exact question from the parent perspective. I'm really glad you asked that, because I have a son whose parents are all letting their kids do exactly that. And he's young. And so he's saying, why not me? Everyone's doing it.
Yeah,
His
that's really hard.
perception is to be cool and to be accepted. The peer pressure is so great
Yeah.
that to go out means you're going to go to a
Yeah.
party and do that. So I have to walk this fine line, because if I say no, 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 I'm scared he's going to do something worse. And I don't know.
Yeah, it's very hard. And if you're going to be a parent that tries to restrict your kid from drinking or restrict your kid from using, you're going to be swimming upstream
Exactly.
with the culture. So, it's a continual, you can't be afraid of conflict, you can't be afraid of the stress of it, but your kid is going to have a real challenge. Like with my kids, as I said, you can find something else to do. Like, I'll tell a long story. Anyway.
So how do you
find some other activities to do with some other
motivated?
friends.
Like when you were talking about those stages of contemplative, they want to change, how do you get them to change when all around them this is going on?
Yeah, well, you could say, you could either say, if you go, you're going to have to go late, or you're going to have to leave early, and then, you can't stay there until 11 or something, you have to leave early, because everybody's drinking, if you're going to let them go there.
So you're
But,
saying put some controls on
Or
it.
find something else for them to do.
Yeah.
So you can find something else. Like my daughter said to me, when she wanted to go to this giant party, party. I go, really? I go, well, what's going on there? She goes, oh no, everybody's going. Well, good. So you think there's like everybody's drinking going on there? Yeah. Well, yeah, probably. Okay, great. You think in the back the people are getting high and doing this and that? I guess. Okay, you think like the cops are going to come like in an hour and a half probably? Because she goes, yeah. She goes, okay, fine, I won't go. So, but finding a group of friends to do other, kids still need to have fun, they need to socialize.
Right.
But if the purpose of the thing is to, sit and talk about it, if the purpose of the night is just to get drunk and go crazy, that's not that wonderful to me. But the other dynamic is, how are colleges, right? How's drinking in college? So the college world has moved down to the high school world is what's happened.
Yes.
That we're gonna go for it, we're gonna see how much we can drink, we're gonna go crazy, we just wanna have, drinking games, drinking parties. So that's what's going on. So that's just that's the culture we're living in now. Jim?
Well, my thing is I know plenty of people who are 4.4 students getting into Ivy Leagues, getting into MIT, getting into all these amazing schools. And they'll occasionally go out and they'll drink. And the other thing is I'm saying hypothetically, like the way I feel we look at it is, would you rather us be going out of state to college and drinking with strangers for the first time at the age of 18? Because realistically, we're freshmen. We're probably going to go to a college party and drink. Or would you rather it be kind of under your supervision so you know how we are when we're drunk, so you can teach us how to drink so we don't go off to college making idiotic decisions? Like the way I look at it is, if you're gonna do something stupid, be somewhat smart about it. Like, no, not to let anyone else get your drink. No,
Yeah.
to have water.
And the research shows that parents are really restrictive. Those kids, a lot of them go crazy when they go out and leave the home. There's zero anything going on. But it's like, I've talked this topic before and I got a lot of bad feedback before. Like, you said it's okay to do illegal stuff. You're condoning this and that, so I can't condone any illegal behavior and say whatever. That's why I said all the stuff at the beginning. The reality of our culture is it's going on, it's happening, and it's gonna happen. There's part of it. How can you manage it? How can you structure it?
Would you say it's more so now than like even 10 years ago, or?
I think it's all about I was in school in the hippie days,
Yeah.
so I don't think it's changed that. The substance has changed. The music was different.
Yeah.
Okay. My name is Manuel Lares. I'm with Behavioral Health Services. And there's one thing that you can count on is that leadership establishes attitude, and it's attitude that determines behavior. And I think the leadership in the beach cities is one that we've taken a lackadaisical attitude towards alcohol and young people. And in order for us to shift that attitude in the community, the community has to come together, impact leadership. Many of us are leaders in this room who, to prevent any conflict with our young people, will kind of give in to them. I know I'm one, I do it all the time with my children. But one of the things that we're doing is we're running an underage drinking reduction campaign in beach cities. We work with Claire, and we also work with Recovery Now. We also work with Dr. Allen too, and we're putting together a town hall meeting on June 25th to actually bring this issue up on how do we begin to change the attitude all across the beach cities, and not only the beach cities, but we also have partners all across the South Bay to deal with the disproportionate amount of underage drinking and to shift some of that attitude, because we know for a fact that we shift the attitude and we will change behavior on a community-wide basis. And to the young lady, you're absolutely right. It does help, to know how to handle yourself, but all that could be taught without having to go and wild out and turn up, and go nuts and do irreversible damage to your advantage, right? Living in the beach cities, the young people have an advantage. They have access to resources, they have access to institutional knowledge, right? That's passed down from generation to generation, and then it's all offset by destroying your mental capabilities by pouring alcohol into your system.
No, I absolutely agree, but it's just like, for those of you who have sons and daughters, what happens when college time comes around to commit? Your son and daughter has never had a drop of alcohol in them, and they're going 800 to 1,600 miles away from you. Wouldn't you rather?
Hold on, give me. I think what the community's attitude should be is that because you don't drink and because you understand that you do have an advantage, and wherever you end up in college, we want you to take advantage of that opportunity, right? If you go to a college and not drink while everyone else is drinking, how does that leave you? It leaves you at the top of the list, right? It leaves you with a competitive edge, which is, I think, what everyone wants their children
I don't think nobody's had a drop by the time they go.
No, but I feel like that's just a little difficult for kids when at the dinner table, our parents are having a beer, or our mom is having a glass of red wine. Like, how can you expect your child not to be curious and not to drink? I feel like curiosity is part of human nature. And I'm saying this as a
That's a
very
great question. That's a great
academic.
discussion to have.
The
Yeah,
American
like-
Medical Association now recommends 1 glass of wine a night. I couldn't handle that if I,
Like-
every night.
You know, and I feel like I understand, like, lay a strong foundation for your kid. I feel like my parents have laid a strong foundation for me, but I'm not guaranteeing I'm going to college as a freshman and I'm not going to party. Like, and especially, like I said, curiosity is part of human nature. So if I go throughout my entire high school career not partying, and you expect me to wait until I'm done with college when everyone else is partying, it's not going to happen. It's just, I think that request is unrealistic. And the way our society works, if you go to Europe, if you go to Spain, if you go to anywhere over there, the drinking age is much lower.
Right.
The drinking age in Mexico is much lower. I have European transfer students who are currently in college. They've come over from Russia, and they've been drinking since they were 15. Granted, like Greg said, there's a higher risk, but when they go to parties, they know how to handle themselves. They aren't getting crazy. They understand what their limits are. And now they're all of legal age of drinking. They can actually drink, but it's like they get it.
I totally understand. I think your community and your families would want you to keep your competitive edge so that we're not on par with Mexico, and we're not on par
The
with
thing is
with Europe,
America,
that we
regardless of
actually continue to excel and raise that
Well,
standard.
of course, but the thing is we can say that, but America is falling behind in education right now. So for you,
Maybe because we're partying too much.
is it because we're partying too much? Because all the other countries have lower drinking
You'll never
ages?
win an
Yeah.
argument with Jen. She's
Maybe we're slipping as a nation because we are
I think
because alcohol
maybe,
is
you know,
impacting our ability to
you know,
progress.
Manny, what would be good is maybe integrate more teens into your town hall meeting.
Without a doubt.
You know, get some teen-
Let's talk. We'll talk more after this.
Get teens to come and talk and, you know, be part of the solution or figure out. So we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop. And if you, I'll be around if you want to talk. We can keep talking to each other, okay? All right, thanks for coming.